Holy Spirit is presiding the council of the blessed apostles, and hast promised through thy Son, Jesus Christ, to be with thy church to the end of the world. We beseech thee to be with the council of thy church here assembled in thy name and presence. Save us from all error, ignorance, pride, and prejudice, and of thy great mercy vouchsafe, we beseech thee, so to direct, sanctify, and govern us in our work by the mighty power of the Holy Ghost, that the comfortable gospel of Christ may be truly preached, truly received, and truly followed in all places, to the breaking down of the kingdom of sin, Satan, and death, till at last the whole of thy dispersed sheep, being gathered into one fold, shall become partakers of everlasting life, through the merits and death of Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Now this is where I do that famous thing called establishing a quorum, which means find a complete page in the notebook. First things first, going from north to south, I can see we've got Maine.
Maine is here, St. Patrick's of Maine.
Okay. St. John's and B. Shannon, Father Patrick, yes. I can never remember which. Good Shepherd, Waynesboro. Beaver Dam, no. Christ the King, Lexington, kind of, yeah, right. We've got somebody from here. I'll just put Lexington and call it a day at that. All Saints, Hillsborough. Better than you. And Grace, Wildwood. I'm thinking I've forgotten somebody, but I can't think. Oh, Oxford. Okay, we have a quorum. We've only got one congregation completely missing. And I shall report back to them the next time I go and celebrate communion for them. Now, one of the silly things I did in a monk's house was not bring an agenda with me. So if somebody's got an agenda they can throw at me, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I'm told first things I need to deal with is minutes. And I know the normal custom is to print and distribute minutes, but that never seems to happen with us. What we end up with is me reading the minutes that I wrote down real quickly at the last meeting, because whoever was deputed to be the recording secretary last time either forgot about it or I have the email somewhere, but I've lost it. The minutes of the convocation of the Eastern Missionary District held at St. David's, Charlottesville, August the 19th, 2017. Represented. Can't read my own handwriting at times. St. Patrick's, St. David's, Holy Trinity, Huntersville, Trinity Beaver Dam, Christ the King, Grace, and the McDonald's were there, and they had a chaplaincy at Barn Hill. St. Bede's, yes. That's the other one I can't read. The minutes of the 2016 meeting were read. Proposal to accept was made by Father McDonald, seconded by David Bonds. The financial report appended, accepted as read. Parish reports, Barn Hill Ministry, 15 to 20 on a Sunday, and then Father McDonald reported it came about as a result of his wife convalescing after breaking her leg a couple of years back. It's a church in a box, and he had 1 hour on a Sunday morning to get in and out. It's a nursing home ministry. St. John's, Maryland, at this time last year, it was reported as being 6 or 8 people on a Sunday, struggling somewhat with a decision in early 2018 whether or not to close the church. St. Bede's, more effort needed to secure a core group. Services held at Westminster United Methodist Church in the chapel on Sunday evenings when possible. St. Stephen's stroke St. Patrick's, services by video link for the main group. Half a dozen or so people involved. Father Patrick has been concentrating on St. John's for the past year. St. David's, slight growth now that the situation has stabilised again. Attendance of 16 to 20. No action by the vestry on pro-cathedral status. And as just as an aside, nor on anything else. Otherwise, things going well. All Saints Hillsborough is active with around 8 at service on a Sunday morning. Father Steve Reeves has taken over from Father Kelly as the visiting priest there. Oxford / Holyrood, services at Oxford once a month. Holyrood twice a month. Goldsborough 4 times a year. Oxford is the bigger group when they're all there, with about 12 to 15. But the problem is getting them all there. Christ the King, please pray for growth. 6 to 8 faithful members attend each Sunday. We're currently able to pay the bills. The question is, how much longer will the situation be sustainable at Lexington? Sorry, my notes are always highly compressed. Huntersville, Holy Trinity, 6 to 10 people attend on a Sunday morning. Recently relocated to a nice venue that was a former schoolhouse. We are having difficulty attracting new people. Instability as to venue probably does not help. Grace Wildwood continues to make steady progress. Father Og was encouraged by gaining an assistant priest, who came and went quite rapidly, as I recollect, and also by the fact the congregation is becoming widely known in the community. Notes from the diocese. We seem to be going forwards rather than backwards. No new works initiated this year, but old works are in okay shape. Visited Trinity Beaver Dam, St. John's Mechanicsville, Grace Wildwood, Christ the King Lexington, and All Saints Hillsborough so far this year. The education report was work on the Theological Institute continues, and then the meeting wound up, I asked for other business and there wasn't any. And I indicated that the next meeting, i.e. the one we're at, would be in late July or early August 2019, venue to be announced. Do we have a motion to accept the minutes? Oh, actually, first thing, anybody got any corrections? I love it when meetings are a year apart. People forget stuff. Okay, do we have a motion to accept? Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
The next thing on the list is the financial report. And this is usually the funniest part of any meeting, because it involves me trying to make sense of the financial report. I've got... The difficulty that I have with the financial report is I receive a consolidated financial report for all 3 mission districts. The difficulty there is that very often some expenses get booked to the wrong place, and then I have to sit down and work out what ended up in the wrong place. So, for example, the printing costs for Glad Tidings should be under the National Council's expenses, but last year they were booked as Eastern Missionary District expenses. So I need to sit the treasurer down and explain to her what goes where, but a lot of the unclearness is inherited because the previous treasurer did it this way. And have you ever tried arguing with netbooks? You lose. Okay. The total income remitted to the National Council last year was $14,208.49, which consists of tithes from 8 congregations and personal gifts from the McDonald's and Mrs. Easton. The total expenditures for the Eastern District, basically half of my stipend as the presiding bishop is booked to the Eastern Missionary District, so that's the 9,000. The $612.50 miscellaneous expenses was very largely printing costs for Glad Tidings. There might be a little postage in there, but it's mainly Glad Tidings. Total travel expenses, airfare, gas, lodging, and car rental totaled $796. So I managed to spend $10,418.17, leaving a balance of $3,790.32 going to the National Council. One of the peculiarities of the way the UEC is funded is that bishops are also parish ministers. And so we derive most of our income, or not as the case may be, from the parish where we are ministering. So basically what the bishop's stipend is in the annual report is a top-up that helps me cover the costs of being presiding bishop. That's where we are with that.
You do have one correction?
Yeah.
Because I knew Mrs. Robinson told me about this twice, that you had a $350 contribution covered Glad Tidings.
That's right.
Yes.
That, unfortunately, is booked to the national income.
Oh, okay.
This is why I really need to sit Jackie down and get everything in the right place. But every time I try and phone her up, I get, hey, I'm in Texas, or hey, I'm in Illinois, or hey, I'm at my sister's. It's like, whatever. Yes, sir.
Does the income include this for the bill for the Episcopal Church fund, or is that in that?
That goes to national. I'm going to quickly go through national. Unfortunately, there's miles of it. So I haven't printed it out in full. Actually, if you don't mind.
I got one copy.
Yeah, I'm just going growl because I'm trying to find the one for 2017, the full year. So I always say this place looks like an explosion in a paper mill. Here we go. If you could run me 20 of that would expedite matters. And I will read what Jackie had to say about the national finances. As of December the 31st, 2017, the balance of the checking account was for $15,947.86, and the savings account was $15,809.67, for a total cash balance of $31,757.53. The UEC-NA changed banking institutions from Chase Bank to Bank of America in November 2017. Chase made it increasingly difficult to do business, you better believe it. requiring me to travel to Morgan, Louisiana to sign signature cards since there's no chase back in the state of Arkansas. They will not send signature cards to me to expedite the transfer of treasury responsibilities from Eileen Grant. There's a Bank of America office in all 50 states, making it much easier to transfer treasury responsibilities in the future. The UECNA received, this is the National Council, $27,687.71 in tithes, $2,687.71 more than budgeted. The balance of Chase investments was $204,334.26, an increase of $20,981.33 over the prior year. We received $5,852.10 in debt dividends and interest the last year, which was $911.89 less than budget and $1,047 more than dividends received in 2016. We assessed the management fees at $2,322.33, a decrease of $262.04 from 2016. The year ended with a net income of $10,814.78. We had assumed a net income of $4,400 in the budget for the year, so there was quite an improvement in finances. We came in under budget on most expense accounts. Travel expenses for the Eastern Diocese were $796, miscellaneous expenses $621, $418.17 over budget. The Archbishop's expenses were $828.93, $3,171.07 less than expected. The Glad Tidings account also had a net income of $1,305, $405 more than was budgeted. The 2018 budget has the final amounts as stipulated in the accounts above. Revision of the 2018 budget should be considered to provide a better projected budget for 2019. An overall review of budgeted amounts per account is included in this report, and we accepted the suggestions that were made at National Council. Okay. You have the national sheet in front of you. If there are any things you have a question about, please feel free to ask me. I can't guarantee I can answer it. I'll just give you a minute to run through that. I like this church. It's got a clock where I can see it.
They made it for 70-some years without a clock there, and I got them and they decided they needed one.
I wonder why.
Are there any huge and ongoing mysteries we have questions about? Quite interesting. When clergy see a balance sheet, they kind of glaze over. The laity start looking at it going, this is something we understand.
Motion to accept.
I haven't seen a hand go up yet. I mean, I'm expecting at least one question. I'm actually going to get away with it. Oh, Father on.
Great Lakes Diocese.
Yes.
Does that fall under Western, or is it just not?
Great Lakes does not fall into this because this is the National Council budget, which covers the 3 missionary districts. Great Lakes manages its own affairs, and its only responsibility is to forward diocesan tithe to a portion of its diocesan tithe to the UEC, to the National Council. which is why they crop up on a sheet you haven't got as having donated, I think it was roughly $1,000 last year in tithe. Otherwise, they're financially independent from the National Council, which is something I hope will eventually change. Any more questions? Do we have a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
I second.
Okay. All those in favour?
Aye.
What's new in the Zoom? Oh, parish reports. Good, I get to sit down for a bit. Parish reports from north to south, which means you're on, Father Tom.
If you go first.
Yes.
Hey, would you step up front, because I'm recording this and I'm gonna have Father Tom pass it on and put in his little magic program and see this out of the text.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tom Harvold, and for anyone who does not know who this is speaking to you. And I'm representing both St. Bede's and St. John's, and so for both, I bring you greetings from Maryland. St. Bede's is a project which has been ongoing for quite a number of years, and is in an interesting status, I think you could say, at this particular point. So let's bracket that for just a moment and talk a little bit about St. John's. St. John's Mechanicsville has recently made the decision to close its doors. Their vestry voted on that. I was the last supply priest that they had employed on a regular basis, and they made the decision to close. Reason given being that they felt that their group was small and aging, and many of them had health problems and so on and so forth. They didn't feel that they could continue the outcome, the expenditure of time and energy and everything else required to maintain the church. Now, this ended up resulting in an interesting situation where they proposed that the corporate entity and assets of St. John's could be transferred to St. Bede's, basically moving the entire parish north from Mechanicsville in southern Maryland to the Westminster area in north central Maryland. And obviously that was something that I had a great deal of interest in and had hoped would work out. Unfortunately, St. Bede's is not exactly a paper parish, it's more of a pixel parish. We have the permission from the local United Methodist Church, Westminster United Methodist, to meet in their chapel, which is great. However, the time for the meeting that is available is either in the very middle of the day, and when I say middle of the day, I mean like 1:30 or thereabouts, or in the evening on Sundays. You cannot be at the regular typical service time because in addition to being the chapel, that particular room is also the handicap entrance to the church. So for whatever combination of reasons, very few people, if any, actually show up if we have actual physical services there. Many, it's the Sunday that I've gone over and been prepared to say vespers, preach, offer Holy Communion, etc., to find that I am completely alone. Some time ago, toward the end of last year, as an experiment, I decided to begin doing live broadcasts of both vespers and matins on Sunday using Facebook. that has turned out to be quite popular. I typically have somewhere in the vicinity of a half dozen, occasionally less, not all that infrequently more, people watching that broadcast live and interacting, via Facebook. After it has gone to my timeline and been sitting there for a while, the viewers are somewhere in the 40 to 60 viewer range, sometimes higher, for those live broadcasts. So people are being reached with the word. That's the good news. The challenging bit is that there is no obvious way to combine the two. In other words, I don't have a way of doing live broadcasts from Westminster United Methodist Church. So at present, I have to choose one or the other. So I have a choice between either going to the church and having possibly no one, or staying where I can do have a Wi-Fi connection, doing a live broadcast, and having tens at least of people who are watching that, listening to it, hopefully in some fashion, benefiting from it for the Lord's work. Consequently, I have been focusing much of my attention on the live broadcast. So when this opportunity came about to potentially acquire the wherewithal to have an actual physical location through the offered generosity of St. John's Mechanicsville, and I began to put the word out, crickets. People apparently are very happy to sit at home and watch and listen to a live broadcast, but it's apparently a little more challenging to actually come out and show up in person for services and do whatever work is involved to actually get this project off the ground. So St. John's is praying for discernment. I would ask and implore your prayers as well, that the best outcome from the standpoint of advancing God's kingdom is in fact what comes out of all of this. So the live broadcasts are successful. People are being reached with the word. Real-time, actual FaceTime, physical building stuff, a little more challenging. So, thank you.
Thank you. The next one I'm going to ask for you, Doctor.
Well, I think Steve, Terry, so you can look at it. Steve, Terry, did you guys want to say something about Maine?
Yes, I would. Because we're St. Patrick's in Maine, and I found actually listening to Father Tom very interesting, because I thought what he was talking about regarding the internet service interesting, because I found, because we've been doing that with Father Patrick, and we are seeing some success with that as well. I think we're seeing the success. I think everyone who attends Father Patrick's internet service would be attending it if they were geographically close enough to be able to attend it. But of course, we're about 600 miles away, and then there's actually a couple other people that attend, but they're probably at least an hour to an hour and a half away, if not more. So it does allow them to be able to go to a good Bible-based Anglican service and find an outlet for it. But anyhow, we do our service with Father Patrick on Sunday evenings at 6 o'clock, and participants from many different locations. Father Patrick does an excellent service each week. He puts a great deal of effort in for our group. And then we also do a Bible study at 5 o'clock we're currently doing the Gospel of John. That is, if nothing else, it's also an outlet for folks who maybe don't have access to a Bible study to certainly join in with Father Patrick's Bible study, because it's very good, and there is an opportunity. There is sometimes I think we need to embrace the technology that we have, but still try to keep true to tradition. I mean, we certainly would rather go to a physical church, even if it required driving an hour, but we can't do that where we are. And some of the challenges, just talking about Maine and our little church up here, we do try to invite people to join us. Maine is the church it's not a very heavily attended. We're from Maryland, so we're used to, at least, it's not the deep South where church attendance is very large, but we're used to people going pretty regularly. Up here, that doesn't seem to happen. Church is not a big thing in the lives of folks in the Maine area. And so what happens is, and then when the churches that there are ones that kind of seem like they stick more to the Gospels, and they try to stay away from the epistles in the Old Testament, because it seems like they're picking what they think is important, I guess, or what they want to be important. So that's something we run into up here. And so, but that's what's going on at St. Patrick's in Maine, and certainly much of it's to the good work of Father Patrick.
Yeah, so update on St. Stephen's. I was at the end of the year. I was driving 2 hours in the morning and doing a service over at St. John's for every year, and then doing St. Patrick's in the evening. So right now I'm doing, like I said, I have not advertised our service at all. I'm not out on Facebook with it. But we do, we have other folks from Maryland now. They're over 2 hours away. So we've got 5 or 6 right now on a just little video thing, but our major goal is very soon to be working on planning a live church. So we're working on that. It's just finding a place and getting tied in at the right time with all that. So hopefully that'll be coming in our local area in Boyce, Virginia, be planning a church. So very excited about that. Just a little FYIs on what St. Patrick's and St. Stephen's are actually church plants at Shenandoah Mountain Anglican Chapel. That's why you see on the tithe report the chapel. We don't, because that's the one that's registered in state Virginia as a church and has bank accounts and all that. But of course, besides us tithing, we do a lot. We just finished helping. We donated to the Archbishop to help him with this church. I went down there and didn't really have anything. And I was like, well, Archbishop can't do that. So our church voted to give them just a bunch of post box, corporals, patents, just to fill out all of his compliments out there. So we voted to do that. We just helped the family get electrical with, so they could have fans and everything in their house. We spent over on the eastern shore where St. John's was. JJ's been coming to our church, and we're helping over there. We were at St. John's very active in outreach for the homeless and for the food pantry, and we are continuing doing that. We just gave again another $600 to go buy a bunch of meat for the food pantry. We just a bunch more people that we've been supporting and writing. We might be a small church, but financially we do extremely well because everybody tithes in our group and gives, and we can find all the funds. So that's why we even tithe to the diocese very heavily. Basically, we're giving $1,500 for St. Patrick and $1,500 for St. Stephen's. So that's my report.
I'm going geographical this year, that makes me happy. As many of you will know, I parted company with St. David's at the beginning of this year. Can't exactly say I was sad to go. There are certain parishes where the vestry rules the roost, and there are certain parishes where the minister rules the roost, and there are certain parishes where nobody rules the roost. It's total anarchy. And in all honesty, when it comes to St. David's, it's somewhere in the anarchy category. One family basically runs that church, and they do everything they can to kill growth. Once it gets to 20 people, it's time to get rid of some folks because there's a danger we might actually have an election. So bearing that in mind, and the fact they've run at least one vestry person, several parishioners of my wife out of the parish, we found ourselves in the position of, it's probably about time to start a mission. And there is nothing really in the Shenandoah Valley between Lexington and Father Patrick up near Winchester that is traditional Anglican. You will run into a lot of ACNA with the Father Aaron, please forgive me, the big screen and the praise band. He's halfway there. But you will not come across much in the way of 1928 traditional, anything traditional. So with 9 of us from St. David's who pretty much been run out, we decided to start services, and somewhere along the line I managed to pluck up the courage to ask the pastor of the Lutheran church across the road if we could have services there. So we started with a 5 o'clock service in Bethany Lutheran Church in Waynesboro, which is across the road from my church, from my house. He's got it in for me.
I told you, I ain't got no control.
We'll just take a wee break. It's not a 7-verse hymn. Yeah, well, Anglicans do tend to sing on the verses. That sounded almost conclusive. Yes. So we started services at 5 o'clock on a Sunday evening in Bethany Lutheran Church. The first week we were there, the Bloomfield joined us. So our first Sunday we had 15. We have only had 2 Sundays since then where we have been below 15. One was when the whole parish went on holiday on the same week. And the other one was just one of those Sundays where it decided to have Mother and Father of thunderstorms right over I-64 at 4:30 on Sunday afternoon, and nobody from Charlottesville fancied trying to swim to Waynesboro for service. Other than that, we've been between 15 and 22. Due to the generosity of a parishioner, we are negotiating endlessly to purchase the building we are meeting in. And should that come to pass, we will have not only a home for Good Shepherd Anglican Church, but also we will have a space for a library for the Theological Institute. And as there is a hotel straight across the road from the church, a very convenient venue for holding Synod. It's right in downtown Waynesboro, so there's at least 3 restaurants within easy walking distance. It's, you know, it works for that purpose. Whether this will come to pass, I'm 98% certain that it will do. It's just, however, tried negotiating with the committee. It's just been a nightmare. You think you've got them ready to say, you know, ready to go, and then you put a proposal to them, and it's like, well, now we're thinking that we ought to do such and such. I am told that our realtor has finally got proof. Now, I'll find out the truth of that another day, but we're pretty much there, I am told. So that's what's going on. The future plans for Good Shepherd are basically, first of all, when the Lutherans move out, we will start having a morning service. There will no doubt be intense debate in the parish as to whether we're having both morning and evening services or just the morning service. I suspect there may be a considerable lobby to keep the evening service going. And then we set about all the interesting stuff like developing, you know, regular Bible study slot, other educational programs. But so far, I mean, it just, the interest seems to be there. I was looking at my original mailing list of 12 people. The mailing list that I have now is 30. They don't, of course, all come at once. So, you know, that's where we are with Good Shepherd. I'm getting a lot of help from various people. You know, I've 3 people stepped up and took on the job of being the vestry committee. A different 3 people are, when we finally get down to the bank to open a checking account, going through the signatures on the checking account. I have another parishioner volunteer to start a website when we're far enough on to, you know, to do the website for the parish. It's all coming together quite nicely. I would beg your prayers that as this process goes on, we keep it to the point where the Lutherans and the Anglicans are not wringing each other's necks. It is a little bit difficult with 2 congregations in one building, particularly as they are big, they have been there for 93 years, and we are the fly on the elephant's ear to them. So they do, there are silly little things like one somebody walked in and the floor was full of balloons. And Ashley and Audrey were, Ainsley and Audrey, which one is it? Ainsley? Ainsley and Audrey and Ian were running around gathering up balloons because somebody had had the bright idea for graduation of the Lutheran school to have all, which was Pentecost Sunday, all these red balloons to let go of in the service. Well, it all got up to the rafters at the 8:30 service, but at the 11 o'clock service, they start coming back down again. So by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we've got all these little red wigglers on the floor. You know, it's the other thing that is a standing joke is Calvin's coffee table. Now, unlike the Lutherans, I use the stone altar at the east end of the church. They have a wooden table they put here, and they said, "Scouts on, we'll put it away." About half the time we walk in, and whoever's unfortunate enough to be the next person through the door, usually Cliff, ends up on the other end of the table, marching that thing back into the corridor on the side of the church. Like I said, there's a lot of irritations about sharing a building. For the first about 10 weeks, we were carting books to and from my house across the road in a garden wagon. The garden wagon has quietly been left at the back of the Lutheran church for the last 8 weeks, and they haven't said it. So we're making forward progress at Good Shepherd. Have you got anything you want to chip in, dear Bloomfields? Anything, Cliff? Anything you want to chip in? I haven't driven them all crazy, so we'll survive. My other responsibility at the moment is going down to celebrate Holy Communion at Trinity Beaver Dam once a month, which is a little bit different. Trinity Beaver Dam was built in 1830. It retains its central pulpit with the communion table in front of it. And I celebrate communion there standing at the north end. It's a small group there. I probably has the only lay reader I've ever come across who has learned Hebrew. And he is usually the one who takes the services there and preaches because it's a diocesan reader. It's a small congregation, about 10 to 15 most Sundays. They would like to grow a bit, but they are quite literally one of those country crossroads churches. They're about 4 miles from anywhere.
And that's being generous.
And that's being generous. I mean, by somewhere, I mean somewhere with a post office. Now, if you're actually talking a town, it's more like 25, 30. But, you know, they have been there probably about 20 years, and they seem to be always around the 15 mark. If everybody turns up, it just about makes 20. So that's what I'm up to. They have actually developed rather a different attitude to the diocese than they used to have. They used to have nothing to do with the diocese at all. The last couple of years, faithfully, they have contributed every month, although not always into the right pot, to the operating expenses of the church, you know, national church. They're becoming much more involved with what goes on in the UECNA. I think that's enough for me for the time being. Going southwards, that gets me down to North Carolina, and I'm going to work from right to left, so that's you, Mr.
Brown. So I am Reverend John Brantley, and I take care of Holyrood in Smithfield and Oxford in Oxford, North Carolina. Holyrood recently moved from Princeton, North Carolina, back to Smithfield, and that's a result of my secular employment. I work in Cary, which is a nice 50-minute commute from Smithfield, which is much better than the 70-minute commute that it was from Princeton. So that's the reason for that move. We still have a consistent, we went from a consistent 7 members to a consistent 8. We suspended services for a few weeks, and we have restarted those. Now we're meeting at 6:30 in the evening. It was supposed to be 6, it turned to 6:30, and then whenever I said it was 6:30, because we have that one parishioner who is consistently 15 to 20 minutes late, we changed it back to 6, and now we have services at 6:30. So we have a consistent 8 people who are there every other Sunday evening. I have not been to Oxford in a number of months. I keep apprised to the family that is in Oxford by phone calls, internet, that sort of thing. However, I was recently approached by another family in Oxford asking about when we were going to reestablish services up there. So I'm very excited and enthusiastic about getting that work back in the works to be able to do that. They are refugees from the Methodist Church who are interested in coming over. Other than that, we've been in the process for, well, since we started Holyrood in 2015, of trying to find a place to meet that is not my front room, because my wife does get a little bit agitated with the moving things around and this and that, having lots of people in the house every Sunday evening or every other Sunday evening. So if you would please be so kind as to continue your prayers that Holyrood will find a place to meet outside of my home. That would be very, very uplifting. And also, if you would continue prayers for the Oxford Anglican Mission, that we would be able to find a consistent, steady place to meet. We had some issues with the Oxford Department of Parks and Recreation, which is the reason that we have not met in a number of months. But again, hopefully we'll be able to get that situation set in stone, or at least soft concrete, so that we can have somewhere to stand on. So, other than that, that is the situation at Holyrood and Oxford.
Great.
I'm Steve Reeves. I'm serving at All Saints with Father Tim Weiss. We have a small little congregation. When my family arrives, it ups it to about 11 or 12 people, depending on who shows up. But I think when Father Tim is there, it's more around 6 or 7. Just a steady little parish that trucks right along. We had one new member showing up for several months, but he's kind of disappeared on us, so we don't know what happened to him. We had a visit from my cousin and her family one time. As far as growth, not a whole lot of growth right now. Me and Father Tim, I travel an hour and a half. I think Father Tim travels 2 hours to get there. And we try to get as much done when we're there as we can. I think I got out to see one parishioner who is, she had a stroke, so she can't get there as much as possible. In the future, I'd like to start developing a visitation schedule so I can come in on the weekend, visit everybody, scout out the town and see what can happen. Maybe we can start growing. That's All Saints.
Go to.
Oh. Do I have to stand in that Edwards thing? I don't stand in that on Sundays. Why would I stand in it now? I'm Reverend Aaron Long. I guess I'm the new kid on the block. We're meeting at my church. This is Paul's Chapel. We come out of the old German Reformed tradition. We're Continental Reformed, so we're first cousins to the Anglican tradition anyway. The only difference is we didn't get all crazy and Anglo-Catholic. We managed to maintain our Christianity instead of selling out the wrong. But Paul's Chapel here, we average between about 120 and 140 a Sunday. I don't know. This year we started basically somehow I got drug into, and the church got drug along with me, North Carolina State Epilepsy Society. I'm now the moderator on the state board. I'm a member of the board at Crisis Ministry, which is the homeless shelter and food pantry in Lexington. We're doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And basically, I just got this goal that we have something going on at the church every day. So I've got the church calendar booked up through November. We have our community day coming up. We normally average about 6,000 to 8,000 people out here whenever we do that out in the ball field and all that. We got our Girl Scout program. We're picking up between, like I said, 30 and 40 kids for our Faith Youth Initiative program. We just went 1.5 miles either direction of the church and went to the trailer parks, knocked on doors, and we started getting the kids here. So we go out and run 2 bands on Thursday night, Sunday morning to bring them in. And I don't know, we just try to be the parish for the community here. That's all I got.
Afternoon. Some of you may not know me. I'm Father Richard DeRoche. I used to be the priest in charge of Christ the King mission in Linwood. 10 miles south as the crow flies, or as the squirrel walks, depending where you look at. We had a mission there for about 3 years, and it dwindled down to 3, 4, 5 of us on a good day. And we have elderly congregants and people with different schedules. We have a lady who travels faithfully from Thomasville to come, barely living above poverty level, but she maintains to come faithfully every day. I used to work with her at a factory, and I remember her. And I asked her one day, Dorothy, you want to come to our church? She says, well, I'm Catholic. I said, well, you love our church. And lo and behold, 2-3 years later, she reached out, got her to come. She's been coming faithfully ever since. So we closed in December. Couldn't financially keep going. It wasn't justifiable. And then I get a phone call out of the clear blue from Reverend Aaron Long. I said, I haven't heard from him in, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. In fact, I had a book he let me use to read on the works of Martin Luther. And I always meant to give it back to him, but we never got together again. So when he called, I figured, he wants his book. But he wanted to know how do you like it in the UBCNA? And I said, I'm happy it's a big book. I said, really enjoying it. We got great people, good archbishop. And he said, yeah, I've been looking at it. He says, we meet for breakfast. So we got together, went to breakfast, and I made sure I had his book. He forgot that he even gave it to me. He goes, I was wondering where that book was. So we started our conversation, and he said, I'm interested in seeing that. I said, well, let me point you in the right direction. And lo and behold, he was already there. 10, 12 different people he was already talked to in the UCNA, so I'm all that. So I gave him the lowdown, what we do, and where we're going. And lo and behold, we thought, gee, it'd be nice if we could come into the UCNA and get ordained. One thing led to another. And the Archbishop got together. And I think the first meeting was what, 4 or 5 hours? One night long. Yeah. Between the Helvetic Confession and the Doric Confession, they had a great time. Well, I started putting 2 and 2 together, and we decided, Father, we came, visit. So we came. Everyone was very, very gracious here. And it wasn't an act. Sometimes you can come into a new church and it's an act until it's put on. But these people were very gracious. Some that I even knew. One of them was a realtor that was helping us try to sell our house years ago. She was here, and I thought I recognized her. So after we had discussions and we decided that we would see about bringing Aaron into the priesthood, Archbishop and the Standing Committee decided that's the way to go. He's very knowledgeable and is reformed theology, and he thought it'd be a good fit. And I'm thinking, maybe. And I asked the Archbishop, and I said, well, Father Aaron, could we have at night a traditional Anglican service like we do, with the 28th prayer? And he said, that'd be great. He said, it'd be wonderful. Father Aaron, same thing, it'd be great, it'd be wonderful. So that's what we're doing now. We just had our second service. We start at 4 o'clock, we have evening prayer. Then we have a little break between the bells. And then we have Holy Communion. And it's just 3 or 4 of us, but we pray that we're getting out, published, and people introduce it to other people. That will have other people come also as well. So it's real blessing. When I walked in and I saw the chance the office, it's like an Anglican church. He says that ought to be. He says the drawings came from an Anglican church down in Georgia. So God's been real good to us, getting us transferred into this church, and we look at great things. And I learned real quick that if you want to get a hold of Father Aaron and you have questions, make sure if you get a hold of him, you give him all your questions out at one time, because you won't see him again for another week and a half, because he never stops. I mean, he's always on the go, here, there, everywhere, boom, boom, boom. Well, that's the life of a full-time pastor. But we're very gracious for him to allow us to come and worship here. We look for good things to happen. And we want to get involved in the life of the church, get involved with their Bible study, meeting some of the people, some of the programs as we get more acclimated with my schedule, situated at work. And we'll just go from there and see what God leads. But Terry Garcia,
Kids on Thursday nights.
excuse me?
You come play with kids on Thursday nights.
There you go. I do that at work. But I can honestly say, like Jerry Garcia said, what a long, strange trip it's been. And it has. But we see God's hand in it. Amen.
Okay. All right.
So I'm Reverend Wayne Hogg from Grace Anglican Church in great downtown Wildwood, Florida. We're right next to a very large retirement community, about 140,000 retirees, growing extremely rapidly. So that's kind of the big community for us to draw from. Most of the people are from the north and northwest of the U.S., largely Roman Catholics, Lutherans, and some of those heretical Episcopals. So there are a large number of churches in the villages and around the villages. Last count I heard was about 160 churches. So there's a lot of opportunity for people. We started out just over 3 years ago. Currently have about 14 members, get 9 to 12 people out at a time. Interestingly, we are very well known in the community, which always surprises me. I'll meet someone and say, "Oh, I know exactly where you are. Drive by all the time." Well, why don't you stop in? Well, they got an excuse. So I have had a number of Roman Catholics approach me recently who are not happy with just being a number in the church and are looking for something smaller and more involved. I had a couple come out 2 weeks ago, just that very situation. So I'm hoping to see them again on Sunday when I return for service. I have 2 men in training for lay readers. And the Archbishop was down for his Episcopal visit earlier this year and got to sit down with both of them, have a long chat about holy orders and time and the work and the effort. So it did not scare them off. So good news is they're both still interested and still want to work with it. So we will continue to work with them. Being close to a retirement community, my expectation always was that I would be doing a lot of funerals. To my surprise, I've been doing a lot of baptisms in both infant and those of riper years. A lot of solemnization of marriages. I haven't done a funeral in over a year and a half. So don't know what that message is, but I'm enjoying that part of it. Financially, we're just kind of holding our own. We really need growth in order to be able to expand what we're doing and what we can do in the community. So it's kind of a balancing act at this point. But with growth will come the ability to do more in the community and get out there. So with that, it's our report.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes.
No, we don't claim George in the South. George is something.
My father led better. I started out in North Carolina, but as you know, Georgia is a dangerous state. So, I had the opportunity to work at the ACC church for supply work, and was hoping from there that Missionary could lead them out to greener pastures, but they decided to stay where they're at. What I see as far as church growth in our area is going to take a change of mind. I started, when I stepped down from the pulpit for the current priest came aboard, I had told the congregation I was going to take a look at the other churches around and see maybe there's an opportunity there that we could fit and work in. So I started about. But we're very heavily populated with PCAs. There are 9 churches within minutes of one another, almost like McDonald's. There's a Wells congregation, which is a Wisconsin evangelical Lutheran. Very strict, very close communion, and we had a disagreement about that. So I approached it. I'd always thought downtown Augusta would be a great place for a church. Now, Augusta has the second largest Episcopal church in the state. And I believe, if I understand what I've been hearing, is this was copied after a Episcopal church. Okay, St. John's?
It's burned down.
Okay. It's the oldest church in Georgia is Episcopal church is Christ Church, which is founded by Wesley. But I found out that Christian Missionary Alliance has a base down there. That surprised me, so I went down and I sat with the pastor there, because the church is happy clappy. And I sat down with him and discussed. He said, maybe Acts 29, that group there can help you get direct you what you're doing. And I said, well, let me think about it. And as I was driving home, I began counting the churches as I entered into Columbia County before I reached my house. Well, there are 13 of them. We have a very large Baptist church, which if you turn right out of my driveway onto our main road, is right across the street. Down the road, there's another large Baptist church. There's a large Wesleyan church. I'm thinking to myself, well, how am I going to fit? How would I fit our Anglican service? How would I do that? How would I reach that? Because we're not far from the lake, so if you're not going to church, you're going to the lake. If you know anything about Augusta, that first weekend in April, Master shows up. So I stepped back and I said, this has got to be God's doing, this will have to be God's hand move for something like that. We And for all honesty, I don't know where to turn. Okay? I really don't know where to turn and who to turn to. Because I don't know the process of church building. We had an AC in a church start in not far from where I live, but it's defunct. It's gone by the wayside. I contacted the AMIA. I just want to get an idea, pick your head, let me see what you got. He said, you know, if you had 20 people, we'd be right down there to help you. I said, well, you got one person right here. So what do you have to have 20? I asked Christ Church, the PCA church. Probably the best sermon I've heard by a retired ARP pastor in the pulpit while that church was looking for their pastor. The gentleman had stage 4 cancer, so I guess he was getting it out before he passed on. But I asked them, I said, why are there not black people in your church? Dear gentleman gave me a reason of separation. They should not the church I want to be, but I want a church that embraces Christ, share with one another regardless of your race, your color, your creed. I think we have it in UCNA. I think it's there. I'd like to see it in Georgia. I'd like to see it in Augusta, Georgia. And I have tried, I'm not going to say I beat my brains out, because you got to have that first. But I've tried to say, what can we do to help facilitate a parish in Georgia? Right now I work in the Presbyterian group. But they, like most Presbyterians, are dying by the wayside. And I've said this to my friends before, we cannot continue to say one holy Catholic Church if we're going to be so divided. It's no way. It's just unconceivable. So that's what I bring you from Georgia. From the Garden City, Augusta, over the Master.
Okay. This is sort of the bishop's roundup, as it were, for the past year. Since the last synod, I visited most of the congregations in the East. I started another round with Trinity Beaver Dam. I've also been to Smithfield, Holy Trinity Huntersville before it closed, Grace down in Florida. So I'm making my way around again. I also managed a weekday visit to St. Bede's, Westminster, to look at property back in April, which leaves just Oxford unvisited in the last year. When I last reviewed the state of the diocese at last year's convocation, I reported that several parishes were in poor shape, but I only seriously expected one of them to fall, and that was St. John's in Maryland. This occurred at the beginning of this year. Christ the King Lexington has relocated to Paul's Chapel in Lexington. Holy Trinity Huntersville closed in March after Father Patrick McLean had to relocate to Denver for family reasons. Unfortunately, it was not possible for someone else to take charge of that congregation on a regular basis. And with regret, we had to sanction its dissolution. St. David's left the district under a cloud in February and returned to the ACC. It failed to follow the canonical procedure for leaving, but I wasn't going to get in an argument with that because after a year and a half of tiptoeing around their peculiarities, shall we call them, I was ready to put an end to the nightmare, to be quite honest. If folks want a private church, they need to hang a sign out front that says St. David's Anglican Church by invitation only. If you want to be that way, be honest about it. I personally am much more interested in growth. I'm much more interested in education, and I'm much more interested in carrying the gospel forward than that particular congregation was. Besides the style issues, there was the issue that they only followed their bylaws when they wanted to, which wasn't very often. So perhaps it was a blessing that their sojourn in the UECNA was a brief one, and I pity Bishop LaRoe for getting them back. The minister at Paul's Chapel here in Lexington, the Reverend Aaron Long, approached me in March, and after examination, which is largely consists of talking me to a standstill on the Reformation. He was ordained deacon on the 19th of May and priest on the 20th, and the congregation, which is a former Evangelical and Reformed church, is working towards establishing an Anglican identity. Good Shepherd Waynesboro was formed following the implosion at St. David's. I had 9 people, which was half the regulars at St. David's, come with me to start services, initially in Gray's living room, and we decided that that was probably not the best growth opportunity in the world, being probably, about a mile and a half from St. David's. And then we had the opportunity to use Bethany Lutheran, which is actually quite literally a story about a dog, but the real short version is that my wife was asked by a friend of hers to go with her to look at a dog that was up for adoption in Harrisonburg. And of course, Robin being Robin, when she gets there, says, "That church across the road is for sale." I said, "Yes, it is. I've known that ever since I moved here." "Well, let's go and have a look." So off we went to have a look. And since then, it was a case of, "Well, do you think you could ask them if we could meet here?" "Okay. Do you think they might be interested in selling this building to us?" And it's just kind of gone from there. There's an old joke. There's a way of planting a mission. I didn't follow it. I have my own anarchic take on that. So after a few weeks in private houses, we've been meeting at Bethany Lutheran Church since the second Sunday in March. Our average is a little over 15. We're fortunate enough to have the assistance of Roger Daggy, who was the organist at First Presbyterian Church. Having an evening service means I can borrow him. And he had 30 years experience as an organist in the Episcopal Church in one of the rather, shall we say, better off zip codes in, well, it was Rancho Palos Verdes. So it was the posh end of Long Beach. And he absolutely loves the old service, but we don't talk about politics. The challenge for the coming year for the Eastern Missionary District, as always, is we need to stabilize and build on what we've got. One of the difficulties we have had for quite a while is we have a pattern in the continuing church, and it's not just the UECNA, it's everyone. You have a church that starts with a group of people who are about 45. It grows, it blossoms, it carries on for about 30 years, and then as they all move down to the villages, that particular church dies off. It's basically, that's what happened with St. John's in Mechanicsville. It's essentially what happened with St. Paul's Coshocton up in Ohio. It's this pattern. You get a group, it stabilizes, it stays together, and then Mr. G. Reaper Esquire comes and takes them to their eternal reward, and there's nobody coming along behind them to replace them. So what we need to do, to a certain extent, as a diocese and as the UEC as a whole, is to change the culture. And the way in which the culture needs to change is to be much more deliberately focused, first of all, on clergy education, secondly, on mission, and thirdly, on church planting. And the reason I put them on in that order is, without clergy, you don't have people to act as missioners, and without mission, you don't have the opportunity to start new congregations. The other thing that has been an annoyance to me in the 7 years I've been presiding bishop is every time I get a few spare clergy, some other jurisdiction swoops in and pinches them. I have currently got 2 clergy I ordained working in the APA. I've got 2 working in the APCK, and 1 other who I think is in the ACC, but I'm not quite sure. You know, if those clergy had still been available to the UECNA and doing the job they were ordained for, we would have 35 parishes, not 26 parishes. So, you know, there is a problem there, that there's way too much. In a way, it's a good thing that there's mobility between jurisdictions, but it's a bad thing in terms of you can get a mission going and somebody's job will move, and you've nobody to put into that mission. So you lose that congregation. And we need to, as a jurisdiction and as a missionary district, get away from that into a much more deliberate, thought through method of church growth. And here ends the bishop's rant for this year. Just let me see. The bishop's report, we've had the financial report, we've had the parish reports.
Old business.
That old business.
Old business.
Do we have any old business?
I don't think we do.
Right, well, education's sort of ongoing, so this is your opportunity.
All right, you ready for new business?
Yeah.
New introductions?
Well, actually, it's old business, we came up last year. Every year.
Okay.
So,
Somebody, I only have 10 copies. I'm going to bring one up with me.
All right, so one of the things that we have been working on, I started with this idea, originally started off as St. Patrick's, Anglican Seminary, and then written that all up and got with the bishop. And so the bishop says, I like it, but you know, you got, you know, it really has to hit the road. The meat has to hit the road in terms of people stepping forward. He changed it to St. Columba's Theological Institute, and now our final version is Latimer Theological Institute, which is going to be a theological institute for the diocese. This is not a national church. Theological Institute or program, because the national bishops don't like the idea. So as a diocese, though, this has precedence through the Anglican Catholic Church for the Diocese of Mid-Atlantic, had the Scott School, which actually grew the ACC very rapidly until a couple of people that were running it, one died, I think, and then they couldn't keep it going. So now they've been starting to see a drop-off in priests. So one of the things that we need to be able to do to be able to advertise, to be able to grow, attract men to be priests, and then to make sure that we are getting men that are qualified to be priests, is we need to have our own Theological Institute or seminary. Now, the reason why we're going with Theological Institute over seminary, we've already been doing classes. I've been teaching classes, and the Archbishop has been teaching classes for a year and a half now. And really, we have 8 to 12, depending on the class, tuning in every week. Every Tuesday, we're having different classes. And nobody's really signing up, either attending or even guys that are in the process of becoming priests. So it's really, we have a lot of people that are just regular lay people really enjoying our classes. So that's where we're coming up with the Theological Institute, because we want everything to be open to every parishioner in the entire diocese. And then we're also going to use it beyond seminary training, lay reader training, other training for eventually, like I did a little talk today on youth group leaders. We will have training sessions in there for our youth group leaders. We're going to have sessions in there about youth protection. But let me just give you a general outline. You guys can read this. It's kind of changed a little bit since this original outline, but I'm not going to read all of it. I will read our statement of purpose, though. The purpose which the Latimer Theological Institute is formed is to engage in any lawful activity to establish, maintain, and operate an institution or institutions of learning for the education and missional training for the workers of Christ and for the missionary district of the United Episcopal Church of North America, to make students dedicated to Christian service and to spread the Anglican faith in the world, to confer degrees, having full authority to do all things necessary to complete the purpose for which this corporation and seminary is created, and to provide a tuition-free education and training for our students. Now, let's talk about tuition for a minute and how this is going to work. One is, we're doing this all free of charge. Everybody that goes out there, you're having to pay thousands of dollars to get an education. And even St. Andrews, which is the OAC, they're charging you thousands of dollars, and you're going to become a priest, and you're going to be working for them. And most everybody's working, and it's just tough. If you're making $50,000, $55,000, $60,000, you want to become a priest, you're going to give up your time to do the study and then do the work and help in your parish, then we shouldn't charge. And that was Moody's whole philosophy when he started the Moody Institute, which is now a major college. They still basically have, you do have to pay for your own board. But Christian education should always be free. Now, one of the things that we're talking about on this, however, is what the Archbishop so brought up is losing priests. So after you attend your first year with the Theological Institute, if you decide that this is the path that you wish to continue on, then you will sign a contract with the school that says that, if you ever decide to leave the UECNA, or you decide like at the end, to go to another jurisdiction, you have to pay us. We're going to have to set them out in the contract. Now, that doesn't mean if you stop taking classes and you decide, hey, this isn't for me, you don't do anything with what you got. That's not what the point of this is. And then also part of this new process will continue on to being deacons and to being priests is they will sign a 5-year contract with us because we're trying to protect our investment. So you get a free education. Well, in return for that, we get the service. They're requiring you to plant churches, helping our churches, be supply priests to fill the gap. So I want to make sure that everybody realizes the number one thing about this is we're protecting our assets. And our assets are our people. And then if they are church plants, those are our assets too in terms of, we're the ones as diocese that has to put everything into a church plant. So we want to make sure that that priest, when he goes out and starts things, really is going to be with us for 5 years. Now, at the end of 5 years, when the contract's up, if he decides, hey, I want to move on, okay, he can move on. There's no appointing there. So now, who will be our instructors? And the thing is we're looking for every priest basically in the diocese to step forward and teach class. We got a lot of diversity of our priests in here. Me and the Archbishop have been the only two preaching for the past year and a half. And which, if you've not attended one of his lecture series, you're phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. But you know, at the time, we were just doing it to get the ball rolling, get things filling in. But now we need people to step up and help us. And the thing is there's enough priests, and we're only offering one class. And if we do get an actual student and or more people, you know, it might be 2 classes a semester. It should be a priest, you know, teaching 1 class a year. And so the way that we're going to do classes is some classes you'll be reading books and answering some questions and video feeding in with your instructor. Other classes will be lecture series where you have to read a book and then kind of what me and the bishop is doing lecture series, recording them, and then the student will have to take a test at the end. So there's a lot of different formats, but each format it will be adaptable to each clergy on how they like to teach. So that's how we're doing this moving forward. I think it's gotten originally it was supposed to be a 13-week semester. That way we had 4 quarters in a year. The normal university is 15 weeks. But we are shooting to keep within the master's level about 30 hours of instruction. Now that doesn't mean 30 hours of that instructor teaching 30 hours. You're going to teach, we're right now doing 12 classes a semester. You're going to teach 12 hours, and then, but with other readings and other stuff, we want to have some more interaction with your professor, you know, trying to keep that thought process and that time frame with the amount of work in there. And, you know, this is really only designed for the working adult. I mean, you know, it's designed to take 1 class to 2 classes a year. Now, you know, we're going to be a hybrid program. Most of the stuff is going to be online, but we are going to be offering once or twice a year or 3 times a year, depending on how many students we got, weekends where they will come in and go through training and fellowship, and we will have different priests at different events, so you get to meet different clergy throughout the year. And most of the locations will either be here or in Waynesboro, depending on student locations and what we have going on. So we want all of our students to get trained by our bishop, by our some priests as well, seeing how they do everything from funeral service to wedding service to doing Holy Communion. They will have practice and work with instructors on how to do those things. I do have a list of courses in here, but just to keep with the biggest thing is from a public relations standpoint and keeping it kind of across the board of what other people have. And this could be changing. We do have a board, but right now it's just a Master's of Biblical and Theological Studies, 45 hours. That's the bare minimum you need to have to be ordained in the UECNA or when all this, or whatever his final decision is. I'm not speaking for him. That was the original thought on there, and that stands in line with what's out there, what people are having about a 40-some-hour course. Master's of Theology program, which is a 66-hour course, and then finally a Master's of Divinity. We will offer a Bachelor's of Divinity, and the only way if you do not have a college degree, the only way you can, correct me if I'm wrong, the only way you can be ordained is you will have to take all the divinity courses, be a Master's of Divinity, which is 90 credit hour course. So on there, you know, we're going to register with the we're going to incorporate. We are going to become a 501(c)(3). We are also going to sign up for the State Council or Higher Education, private religious institute to be able to confer degrees. And then as time goes along, we would hopefully shoot for an accreditation. And if you read, I've done quite a bit of research on that. Really, it has nothing to do really with your programs. It has to do with all the paperwork. You have to have all your student handbooks, all your teachers' handbooks, guides, all your stuff has to be outlined and it all has to be notebooked, and it's just all about records and that you have a procedure for everything, and your classes are basically outlined and your notes on everything and descriptions. So it's a lot of somebody sitting down and doing a lot of work. So until we really grow and get to the point where we think we're ready for that, then we would have to hire somebody to really help us put all that together. And that means some money. So what we have, I also have a copy, which I'm not going over, is our articles of incorporations and bylaws and everything like that. Feel free, they're really fun to read, exciting read these. But what we have now, as we're going to bring up, we have to vote on this, and we're going to bring it up for a vote. But I will tell you that we have Father Sparks, Father Ogg, Father Aaron Long. He actually started the seminary for the other group. He's actively still teaching because he made a commitment for about another year, and he's going to start teaching classes. And he's very vital. He will be on the board. I will be on the board. The Archbishop will be on the board. The Archbishop will be the president of the Theological Institute, but means he can't be chairman of the board. We have wrangled Father Paul Castellano, who, if any of you guys know him, he's beyond smart, and he's finishing up his master's. PhD, I'm sorry, PhD. I'm going to say PhD. And he will be chairman of our board. And we will be doing board meetings, be online, and then we will finish putting all this together in a little tighter format over the next couple months. But this gives us, once we do this gives us the ability to get a website, advertise it, do PR releases to like Virtue and all the Anglican Inc. and start getting the word out there that we're open for business and we're looking for men that want to be Anglican priests, and you can become a priest for free and get a full education for free. I think this would be a great attractant for us, which we need, like Archbishop said earlier, we need men to be coming in because we've been losing men, and good men. That's why they pick them up, snag them. So, I guess we're in new business that we can make a motion.
Well, we're not.
Okay. Okay, yeah, then we'll save this conversation for new business, which we also have going to talk about the Clergy Association.
Correct. So basically what we do at this point is somebody come to a motion.
Well, I think first we need to close old business. Is old business closed?
Because the Theological Institute has to go and over business. Discuss last week.
Oh, well, okay. I thought the vote would have to go in. No, okay. Well, I would like to make a motion that the Missionary District of the United Episcopal Church of North America establishes Latimer Theological Institute to be our diocesan training mechanism.
We have a second. Second. Any discussion? Yes.
Where comes the status of the St. Paul that's moving in? Is that being absorbed into?
Yeah, it's me not liking the names of saints all over everything.
All right.
And Latimer was the original UECNA
Exactly.
seminary.
Back in the 1980s. Albion Knight started the program in 95, which was renamed Durham College after Durham retired, and then fizzled out about 1992. We're basically restarting that from a denominational history point of view.
Is that the document you emailed out the other week?
Yes. Okay.
I'm confused about, this is going to be just for the Diocese of the East?
Well, it's one of those things. If I do it in the Diocese of the East, it doesn't get mauled to death by the other two missionary districts.
And are they going to have their own
Probably not,
institute?
because what tends to happen is that once one missionary district is doing something, the others drop into line. But I've tried to get the three missionary districts working together. I can get East and West working together, but South and Ozarks goes off and does its own thing, because they don't seem to fit in with either coast in terms of, well, that's too far to go. So, so what we're doing is the old traditional end run, which you start something in the East and let everybody else join in.
And our theological institute is open to everybody in the Synod. But from a logistical standpoint, this is the only way we can move it forward on a very rapid pace without getting a lot of confusion and people bugging with it.
You see, if we try to do it through the House of Bishops and the General Convention, it would be 2020 before we got anything done. It would be working with a large committee. Okay. Yes.
Will the program be accessible to trainees from other jurisdictions at institutions?
No, not currently, and I will finish saying, but here's the thing. This is for us. This whole goal is to bring men in. If we feel there's a need, but I think with the amount of resources we have in terms of our clergy, that's very taxing to start putting on, getting a lot of other men coming in, and then we have to try to tax to put our people on. I mean, maybe somewhere down the road, it's really his call. I can't, but just to say from the initial standpoint, we don't have enough resources, and we don't want to tax our clergy. Yeah. We want our clergy to be training our new clergy, and then they have to spend a minimal amount of time, once a year doing a class or every 2 years doing a class. Yeah. And I think it'd be too much if you start getting other people in a tuition, and all of a sudden now we got each semester, you got 10 or 15 guys in the program, and we got 3 of our guys that are really doing it for other things. And I don't want to train, I don't want to help another, I don't want to sound bad, I don't want to help another jurisdiction. Without train ourselves, yeah.
The other difficulty that you run into is that if you get men from other jurisdictions, you get the theological agendas of those jurisdictions being brought into the mix. And that can be, let's just say, a little difficult sometimes. I'll just go with a little difficult for the time being. One of the things I run into very often with continuing churchmen is a lot of them have a very low view of Scripture, in that their basic point of view is that Scripture is historically conditioned, therefore we must rely upon the tradition of the church, which isn't, if you look at the documents that we have from the from the English Reformation, isn't what the English Reformation was about. The English Reformation was about restoring the supremacy of Scripture. But you do run into a lot of continuing churchmen who basically they do not have a high view of Scripture. They basically have the view of Scripture that they picked up in the Episcopal Church, which is that Scripture is culturally conditioned, and although it is the primary source of authority, it is subject to the influences both of tradition and reason. That can get really good fun when tradition and reason begin to take over from Scripture. So, do we have any more questions, discussions? All those in favor? Opposed?
That's a delay.
Okay. Okay, your other thing, which is new business, is the Clergy Association.
I can't take credit for this. I'm just kind of speaking on behalf. Father Richard Roches gets full credit. I mean, this is something me and him have talked about for a long time, but he's the one that came up a month ago, 2 months ago, really pushing the idea for us to have a clergy association, which our main goal with this association is one, and I think Father Og really brought it up very well last night, and the more I thought about it, it's for clergy to have resources between themselves. So when you need to know something, you have somebody you can call on. You have a group of men that are ready at hand to help you with those things that you've never done before, because quite frankly, a lot of us have never, there's a lot of training that we were missing that this seminary is going to take care of, like going through funerals and everything else, and you get situations where you haven't been at something before. So that's one thing we're there. Really beyond that, our main purpose is educating our clergy and helping all of our clergy, new, future, existing, grow. And that's growing through education and growing through training. One of the other areas we're also talking heavily about is being able to work together to help the diocese to grow. So if we're all coming together, we're meeting a couple of times a year, and how can we all fellowship together and work together to grow? Father Ledbetter's down there, he wants to plant a church. And what better way than having all the clergy in the UECNA that belong to the association working together to help him, because we've all planted churches. I got a book I'm finishing up on church planting. So, there's resources. The problem is right now in the diocese, there's no mechanism for us to get together. Also, what else am I leaving out that we talked about last night?
Having talked about the new website and having the link there, and have a discussion board.
Yes.
Zoom or just,
Yeah, and another thing is also resources on the clergy site as well. We talked about that. So, as we all get stuff and put it together, we can post it there, list it there, and guys can come and just grab something they need. Like I had the 1662, which I need to finish. I did it in a super hurry, and the bulletin didn't get it printed out, but it's ready to go. There's like all that stuff. If you want to do one of these services, you should be able to go on there, grab a bulletin real quick and say, hey, I can do that. But we really want to help the clergy and help the clergy to grow. So this does not have to be voted on by the diocese because it is right. This is strictly within, but we, Father Og, Father Sparks was not there last night, but we've had a previous phone call with him, Father Richard, and we've talked to Father Aaron. Who else am I missing? Yeah. But yeah, so we decided to go ahead and inform this, but it's open to all the clergy, and just want to let you know that we're in the baby infancies of still putting this together. I kind of got to do the same thing for this as I did for the Theological Institute and get all the groundwork kind of laid out for us. But we will definitely be
reaching back out to you guys in another month or two. A lot of our meetings are just going to be on Zoom, on video, where you can dial in. But we do once a year definitely have our retreat weekend, go do something fun, like rafting, canoeing, or something we can all go have a fun time with, and then, get together and have an annual meeting, and then also fellowship with each other. It doesn't always have to be, we're always work. Let's all get together, hang out, be able to talk. Now, this is open to deacons and postulants. The postulants will most likely be a non-voting member, but they're allowed to join. And then, of course, the Archbishop, he is a clergyman, even though he gets the purple shirt now. Technically, he can't join. Yeah, he technically can't join, but we have a honorary chair for the bishop of our diocese to set at any time he wishes to sit in or attend or with us as well. But it's not it's leaving it up to the clergy to run the clergy association, to run the business, and so he's a non-interfering, but exactly, he's our listening patron, but he's always welcome. There's never going to be, he always will get copies of all of our minutes and transcripts and everything that's going on, so I don't think there's anything weird going on in this diocese. So, but
You might want to rephrase that.
Okay. But clergy are not conspiring against the bishop to overthrow him or, martyr him in the chapel steps or something. So, anybody got questions on this?
Website?
We're going to start, that will come down the road. I think we first need to get the organizational structure, kind of like how we're going to run it, how it's going to be done, send it out to everybody, have a first meeting, have a vote on how we're going to be running and organizing, and vote a president, a vice president. Since we don't have any money, we don't have to worry about a treasurer because it's really count 0-0. And then we'll go from how we're going to move forward and really start talking over the next year. I think the talk between all of us is what can we do to help the diocese to grow? What can we do to guide the diocese in terms of educating? What can we do to help each other grow? And what things do we need to be offering for our existing clergy? What programs, what training, and then the main other goal is for us to guide him in a way in the Theological Institute on advise you or give our opinion is a better word, our minuscule opinion on our future clergy training, what kind of, really make sure they're living up to the standards as clergy in the East we expect. Yes. Yes, sir. Give me a little time. We just finally. Yeah, I'm going to get everybody on the Max email, make sure I got everybody's email. All right. Thank you.
Do we have anything else? That gets me down to the usual last two things we need to do. First of all, UECW, yes, come on then. You didn't get on the agenda, so I've been following the script.
You do the agenda?
No, I do the agenda about 3 months ahead of time.
Hello, I'm Mrs. Robinson, Piper or Denise, whatever you want to call me. I'm the president of the UECW, which is the United Episcopal Church Women. and that is a very loosely formed group, which includes all women in the UECNA. We do fundraising, relationship building with the other women, especially clergy wives. We search for needed items for parishes and missions, and we pray for the success of all the parishes. The UECW provides monetary assistance to missions, parishes in need, clergy, lay delegates who cannot afford travel expenses, educational grants, especially to the younger people or to postulants, and other charitable donations. All you have to do is ask one of the officers in the UECW. There is a UECW Facebook page, which is a closed group to allow more privacy to the members. The current officers are me, President, Vice President Nancy McDonald, Secretary Susan Hustwick, and Treasurer Beth Lee Pack. Oddly enough, all three of them are in Michigan. Originally, Nancy was New Jersey, but anyway. Several parishes were very generous in their donations to the 2017 Fall Free Will Offering and the 2018 Spring Free Will Offering. Those are the two fundraisers we have each year, is just to ask for donations. Most were in the $50 to $100 range. Sadly, many parishes ignored our request for funds. Parishes and individuals who contributed to this last Spring Free Will Offering will be listed in the next issue of Glad Tidings. Look for your name. You probably won't find it. But at least the East was ahead of the West. The West donated 0. Okay, the UECW has not been asked to provide financial assistance so far this year. So if you have any needs, talk to one of us, email one of us, or contact the Archbishop and he can get your request in. But this is what we do. We would like to be generous and charitable, but you do have to ask. Thank you.
You see, Steve and Terry, your parish priest is so horrible. He forgot to bring it up and ask. We might have to, your parish priest tomorrow might be asking, we make a goodwill offering.
Last two things on the agenda. First of all, we do need to make a vote of thanks to Father Aaron Long of St. Paul's Chapel for hosting us. If somebody would like to make the motion. So second, Father Reeves, all those in favour. The other thing is...
Aye.
Oh, hello. The other thing is date, place and time of the next meeting. Date is a little tricky. I'll try and get it to you as early as I can. So I know I've got to dodge around a couple of people's work schedules. But it will be approximately the same time of year next year, i.e. late July, early August, and it will be Good Shepherd Waynesborough's turn to host. From the point of view of travelling to Waynesborough from around here, it's pretty much, from here it's up 85 to 29 until you hit Virginia 6 and Virginia 151. That's your easiest way. If you like freeway driving, you go north, pick up 81, and we're just off the 81. Nearest airport is Charlottesville. Occasionally they actually fly out of there, depending on what Piedmont Airlines is up to. I've just had an adventure with them, hence the nearest Amtrak station is Stanton. Those who really like punishment. Yeah, but it's, okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's right, you'll base that, yes. Duh. I'm slow today. So, yeah, we will be a good shepherd. We were supposed to be a good shepherd this year, but with negotiating with the committee, I said to Father Aaron, help! So, late July, early August next year, good shepherd Waynesboro for the next diocesan convocation. That leaves precisely one thing on the agenda, which is evening prayer. So I'm going to go that way and get my Rosh and Shamir on, and the rest of you can play on prayer.
Steve, Terry, did you guys want to stay on for evening prayer?
Yes, we do. Thank
Okay.
you.
I like having a boss for the boss. Yeah, I know. Make it quick. Just hurry
Evening prayer begins on page 23 of the prayer. The Lord is in his holy temple, let all the earth keep silence before him. Let us humbly confess our sins to Almighty God. Almighty and most merciful Father, we have erred and strayed from your ways like lost sheep. We have followed too much the devices and desires of our hearts. We have broken against thy laws. We have done those things which we ought to have done. And we have done those things which we ought not to have done. And there is no restraint on us. Thou, O Lord, have mercy on us. And let those who are wrong be processed for us. Restore thou those who are wrong. According to thy promises, and their mind. In Christ Jesus our Lord, and grant to us merciful Father, for his sake, that we may hereafter righteous and full of life, glory to God and holy name. Amen. The Almighty and merciful Lord grant to absolution and remission of all your sins through repentance, amendment of life and the grace and consolation of his holy Church. Amen. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
That thy kingdom come,
Thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
O Lord, open thy arms,
And my mouth shall show forth thy praise.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost,
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
praise ye the Lord.
The Lord's name be praised.
The Psalms appointed for this evening are 65 and 67, beginning on page 460. Thou, God, art praised in Zion.
Unto thee shall thou be performed in Jerusalem.
Thou that hearest the prayer.
Unto thee shall all blessings come.
My misdeeds prevail against me.
Be thou merciful unto our sins.
Blessed is the man whom thou choosest and receivest unto thee.
He shall dwell in thy courts, and shall be satisfied with the pleasures of thy house. Even thou is temple.
Thou shalt show us wonderful things in thy righteousness and God of our salvation.
Thou art the Lord of all honor the earth, and the limit of the clearing of the broad sea.
Who in his strength setteth fast the mountains,
And his girded about with power.
who stilleth the raging of the sea.
And the Lord is the waves and the masses of the people.
They also that dwell in the uttermost parts of the earth shall be afraid at thy token.
Thou makest the outgoings of the morning, and evening praise.
Thou visitest the earth and blessest it.
Thou makest their repentance.
The river of God is full of water.
Thou preparest their corn, so thou risest together.
Thou waterest her furrows, thou sendest rain into the little valleys thereof.
Thou makest it soft with drops of rain, and blessest the yourself.
Thou crownest the year with thy goodness,
and thy love.
they shall drop upon the dwellings of the wilderness.
And the little hills shall rejoice on every side.
The fold shall be full of sheep.
The valleys also shall stand as a that they shall laugh and sing.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Psalm 67 on page 480. God be merciful unto us and bless us.
And show us all his kindness, and be merciful unto us.
That thy way may be known forever.
Thy city help on all nations.
Let the people praise thee, O God.
Yea, let all the peoples praise thee.
O let the nations rejoice and be glad.
Thou shalt judge the folk righteously, and govern the nations upon the earth.
Let the peoples praise thee, O God.
Yea, let all the peoples praise thee.
Then shall the earth bring forth her increase.
And God, even our own God, shall give us the blessing.
God shall bless us.
And all the ends of the world shall fear him.
Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost.
As it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
The first lesson begins at the first verse of the 11th chapter of the book of Daniel. Also I, the first year of Darius the Mede, even I stood to confirm and to strengthen them. And now will I show thee the truth. Behold, there shall stand up even 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Greece. And a mighty king shall stand up, and shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled for his kingdom, even for others besides those. Continuing at the 12th chapter. And at that time shall Michael stand upon the earth, prince which standeth for the children of thy people. And there shall be a time of trouble which was never since there was a nation, even to that same time. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, every one shall be found written in the book. And many of them that sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. Then I, David, looked, and behold, there stood other 2, the one on one side of the bank of the river, the other on the other side of the bank of the river. And one said to the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, how long shall it be to the end of these wonders? And I heard the man clothed in linen, which was upon the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand unto heaven, and swear by him that liveth forever, that it shall be for a time and a half. And when he shall have accomplished to scatter the power of the holy people, all things shall be finished. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O my Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed to the time of the end. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from that time, that daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the abomination that makes desolate set upon. there shall be 1,290 days. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1,305 to 30 days. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in thy lot at the end of thy day. Here ends the first lesson.
The Bowman as the commentary on page 27. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord, and to sing praises unto thy name from the Lord Christ, to tell of thy loving kindness early in the morning, and of thy truth in the night season, upon the instruments of ten strings, upon the luggage, upon the loud instruments, and upon the harp. O thou, Lord, hast made me glad with thy words. I will rejoice in giving praise to the operations of thy hands. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as well as you beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
Our second lesson is written in the first epistle of St. Paul to the Corinthians, 16th chapter, beginning at the first verse. Now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the churches of Galatia, upon the first day of the week, let every one of you lay by in store, as God hath prospered, that there be no gatherings when I come. And when I come, whomsoever ye shall approve by your letters, then will I send to bring your liberality unto Jerusalem. And if it be meet that I go also, they shall go with me. Now I will come unto you when I shall pass through Macedonia, for I do pass through Macedonia. And it may be that I will abide, yea, and winter with you, that ye may bring me on my journey whithersoever I go. For I will not see you now by the way, but I trust to tarry a while with you, if the Lord permit. And I will tarry at Ephesus until Pentecost. For a great door and effectual is opened unto me, and there are many adversaries. Now, if Timotheus come, see that he may be with you without fear, for he worketh the work of the Lord, as I also do. Let no man therefore despise him, but conduct him forth in peace, that he may come unto you. For I look for him with the brethren. As touching our brother Apollos, I greatly desired him to come unto you with the brethren. But his will was not at all to come at this time, but he will come when he shall have convenient time. Watch ye, stand fast in the faith, quit you like men, be strong. Let all your things be done with charity. I beseech you, brethren, you know the house of Stephanas, that is the first fruits of Achaia, and that they have addicted themselves to the ministry of the saints. That ye submit yourselves unto such, and to every one that helpeth with us and laboreth. I was glad at the coming of Stephanas, and Fortunatus and Achaicus, for that which was lacking on your part they have supplied. For they have refreshed my spirit and yours. Therefore acknowledge ye them that are such. The churches of Asia salute you. Aquila and Priscilla salute you much in the Lord, with the church that is in their house. All the brethren greet you. Greet ye one another with a holy kiss. The salutation of me, Paul, with mine own hand. If any man love not the Lord Jesus Christ, let him be anathema. Maranatha. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you. My love be with you all in Christ Jesus. Amen. Here endeth the reading.
The Nunc Dimittis on page 28. Lord, now let us know thy servant depart in peace, according to thy word. On thine eyes shall see thy salvation, which thou hast prepared before the face of all people, to be light to thy Gentiles, and to be glory to thy people Israel. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Ghost, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen. I believe in God, the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and in Jesus Christ, his only Son, our Lord, who was conceived by the Holy Ghost, born of the Virgin Mary, suffered under Pontius Pilate, was crucified, dead, and buried. He descended into hell. The third day he rose again from the dead. He ascended into heaven, and sitteth on the right hand of God the Father Almighty. From thence he shall come to judge the living and the dead. I believe in the Holy Ghost, the Holy Catholic Church, the communion of saints, the forgiveness of sins, the resurrection of the body, and life everlasting. Amen. The Lord be with you. And with thy spirit, let us pray. O Lord, show thy mercy upon us, and grant us thy salvation. O Lord, save the sick, and mercifully hear us when we call upon thee. Endue thy ministers with righteousness, and make thy chosen people joyful. O Lord, save thy people, and bless thy inheritance. Give peace in our time, O Lord, for it is now the word of the Lord, and they are softened with safety. O God, may clean our hearts within, and take not thy Holy Spirit from us. O God, who declares thy almighty power, chiefly in showing mercy and pity, mercifully grant unto us such a measure of thy grace, that we, running the way of thy commandments, may obtain thy gracious promises, and be made partakers of thy heavenly treasure, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. O God, from whom all holy desires, all good counsels, and all just works do proceed, give unto thy servants that peace which the world cannot give, that our hearts may be set to obey thy commandments, and also that by thee, we being defended from the fear of our enemies, may pass our time in rest and quietness, through the merits of Jesus Christ our Saviour. Amen. Light in our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy, defend us from all perils and dangers of this night, for the love of thy only Son, our Saviour, Jesus Christ. Amen. O gracious Father, we humbly beseech thee for thy holy Catholic Church, that thou wouldst be pleased to fill it with all truth in all peace. Where it is corrupt, purify it; where it is in error, direct it; where in anything it is amiss, reform it; where it is right, establish it; where it is in want, provide for it; where it is divided, reunite it, for the sake of him who died and rose again, and ever liveth to make intercession for us, Jesus Christ, thy Son, our Lord. Amen. A prayer for missions. O God, who hast made of one blood all nations of men for to dwell on the face of the whole earth, and is sent thy blessed Son to preach peace to them that are afar off, and to them that are nigh. Grant that all men everywhere may seek after thee and find thee. Bring the nations into thy fold, pour out thy Spirit upon all flesh, and hasten thy kingdom through the same thy Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. And we pray for the increase of the ministry. Almighty God, look mercifully upon the world which thou hast redeemed by the blood of thy dear Son, and incline the hearts of many to dedicate themselves to the sacred ministry of thy church, through the same thy Son, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Almighty God, who hast given us grace at this time with one accord to make our humble supplications unto thee, and dost promise that when 2 or 3 are gathered together in thy name, thou wilt grant their requests. Fulfill now, O Lord, the desires and petitions of thy servants, as may be most expedient for them, granting us in this world knowledge of thy truth, and in the world to come life everlasting. Amen. And we say together, the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Holy Ghost, be with us all evermore. Amen. May God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Ghost bless, preserve, and keep you this day and always. May I wish you all a blessed and safe journey home, and that brings the proceedings for this year's convocation to an end. Thank you. I suppose we were. Well, does somebody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion here at the end that we accept the petition of the Good Shepherd Anglican Church in Waynesboro to be a church in good standing in our diocese.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Well,
All right, Steve, Terry, we'll see you guys later. See you tomorrow.
Okay,
Okay, Father,
thank you. It was great.
Thank you very
Appreciate it.
much.
You're welcome.